PJNet.tv, part 2, 9:30 on the East Coast. And we're setting up for part 2. We've got a bumper running. Let's see. Yeah, got that. Got recording on. Yeah, got that. Streaming servers are up and in sync, and the chat room is standing by. Dell is standing by. Counting down to Studio 13. Well, welcome back and good evening if you're just joining us. This is PJNet.tv. Let me erase the screen over there. There you go. We'll get to that in a minute. Hey, listen, it's so glad I'm really glad that you're joining us here, and if you're watching us on social media, we are so glad you've joined us, and we invite you to join the chat room fellowship. You can watch the same program there. It's at, guess where, PJNet.tv. First button says video and chat. Click that. You'll make some new friends. They'd love to see you. Folks, every Tuesday we get together with, well, guess what? Dell Didway. You see the animation there in the back, but we have the real thing right here. Dell Didway comes to us again, and Dell blogs at delldidway.com. Now, he does other things too, okay? But Dell, you're on vacation this week, aren't you? Seeing grandkids?
Yeah. I'm in a staycation. I'm staying home, getting some things done, which is much needed, and got a lot. Got my to-do list every day, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger every day with my things I check off. So, yeah, I'm home this week, but I'm wouldn't have it any other way right now. I really don't want to go anywhere right now. So,
well, I'm locked inside most of the time. So and in fact, we're encountering some rain, but it's all good. And okay, well, let's run down the blog. I think you've got it pulled up on your computer. You wrote it. You know what it says. So I was fascinated because you always strike a balance between, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, good stuff, just stuff. You've also, you're an author, you're a publisher, literary agent and all that. So you get the book thing in there. But your take on special needs, I have never thought of it that way. So you have a case that you're personally aware of, but then you went on to say we all have special needs. So unravel all that for me.
Well, first of all, thanks for everybody for joining in and being in the chat room. I want to thank Matt out there. I want to thank Amy from Dallas. She's on tonight. So really, I know it's everybody's time is valuable. And so I appreciate everybody hopping on. But actually, that came to me. It wasn't that everybody has special needs. Wasn't really mine. It was Clint Hurdle, former MLB player, manager. Last gig, he just retired from the Pirates. Well loved in Pittsburgh. Yeah, and Clint played in Kansas City. He was dubbed when he first came into the league. He played with George Brett and those kind of likes. He was kind of looked at by Sports Illustrated and the big dogs back then as the next phenom. He was going to be the next big star. And, he tells a story where he let alcohol and other things deter him and derail his, not derail his career, but, keep him from reaching his heights, put it that way. And so he was very open about it to me. He's like, I wasn't fun to live with. He liked to party. He liked to drink, and it cost him. Maybe what could have been down the road, but got his life turned around. Became a Christian. He got rededicated to his life, and very transparent now. He's very open about his faith. You can talk to him for 3 minutes, and where he stands. He's just that. Players love him. He's a players manager, players coach. But we Clinton are friends, and when he did a book signing with me in Pittsburgh, about a year and a half ago, on a game day, he was telling me we were talking. We had some time to kill, and he was talking about his daughter, one of his daughters who has a special need. It's called Prader-Willis syndrome, and I never heard of it.
I hadn't either.
And so he told us about it, and he said, that his daughter is missing a chromosome which controls, your hunger. So to her, she's always hungry. no matter if she could eat all day long, and she would still feel hungry. So it's a not say battle. It's something they've accepted and taken on. And he said oftentimes that if you have a special needs child, that it could divide your family and divide your marriage. He said it brought he and Carla closer, and they depend on each other and they help each other. And, she was just delayed in a lot of her, it took her a longer time to walk, took her a longer time to run. And they always have to make sure she's not eating all the time. So, and so, we were talking about, he says, Del, we all have special needs. He says, it's not just a certain population that some people, that society has thrust upon us. If you say the word special needs, well, then you think of the folks that we go and shine shoes for, the Tim Tebow Night to Shine. They have either autistic or they're some type of a special need. But he's like, we all have special needs, and we all are unique. And he talked about his alcoholism. He said, that's my special need is I'm an alcoholic. And so, and he, went down the line of other people who have special needs. I mean, folks who gossip, they need something to help them to stop gossip. So
I don't repeat gossip. So listen carefully.
Yeah. It's all in perspective and how you put it and how you look at it. So, and not to label somebody who has a special need as, mentally challenged or whatever. So that's not the case and everything. So, I have my special needs, and you probably have yours. And to us, they're ours. They're mine. A lot of folks know about them, but I have them. I have issues. I have problems that I deal with, and most of them are my own doing, and or my own problems I've had to overcome. So that's what I meant by that. And people have to overcome those. And he said, that he and his wife got closer, that he's rarely goes and makes public appearances because when he's home, he's home. He wants to take care of his family. And so I admire that in him. So, and it's also a cheesy way to promote my book coming up. I take a little insert from it and tease that chapter a little bit, and hopefully people will read that and maybe want to read more.
Well, think of it as a free sample.
Yeah,
you're being very generous. On the topic of special needs and caregiving, in life, I have this thing. Heroes are born of crisis, but so are cowards. Okay. Yeah. Now, we all think of ourselves, our previous guest has, he's a coach. And he is also the executive director. His volunteer service, it literally won an award from the governor of North Carolina. We all think of ourselves as heroes, but yet I know people who are married. One individual was involved in a car accident and basically became a vegetable. And the husband ultimately divorced her and left her. They were young at the time, 30-something. And on the one hand, I say, you shouldn't do that. That's horrible. You're a quitter. But on the other hand, I get it. Okay? But it's not until we're tested that we really know, like what Zig Ziglar said this. A man, like a tree, is easiest measured when down.
Yeah, and I hope I'm never put in the position where I have to become a hero. I don't mean that in a bad way. So I'll do the right thing when pressed, and I have no doubt in my mind about that. But I hope I'm never put in that position.
You've dedicated a lot of your life covering sports and sports figures. And one of the things that I observe in a team is, when you're ahead, a championship team is often said, look at their character, look how they work together.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true. But here's the measure. It's easy to be a champion when you're winning.
Oh, yeah.
Let them get behind. Then we'll see what they're made of.
Yeah, and I keep that on a low perspective because I deal with a lot of these athletes and talk to a lot of them and a lot of them. Some of them really fancy themselves as a greater person than you or I. And they, one of them over the last couple of years describes himself as a warrior. He is not a warrior. He is far from a warrior. If he was a warrior, he would be wearing camouflage right now, serving in Afghanistan.
There you go.
He is an athlete, and that is all. That is all he is. And that is all she is. Yes.
Right. An entertainer.
So, yeah, they are. They're a high-priced entertainer, and that's great. And that's the profession they've chosen, but a lot of them will make themselves greater than they are. They'll dunk a ball, and they'll pound their chest like, oh, my gosh, really? Seriously? When I see that, first of all, for one, I've stopped watching the NBA, period. I haven't watched the NBA in 2 years. When they do that, I don't care who, I just flip it off. I don't want to see idiots like that who boast and think of themselves bigger than they are. They're taking a ball and putting it in a hoop and pounding their chest. They're morons.
I've been waiting for the opportunity to share this. It was just on my mind the other day. True story. Our coach, if you wave to the crowd or if you were even conscious of the crowd while you're playing or even on the sideline, you wouldn't be on the team. You're out, Well, every Friday, game day, there would be an assembly. The last class of the day was the pep rally. Okay, we all know what a pep rally is. Yeah. Okay, cheerleaders get up there and back, but there was a point in that pep rally where the seniors would walk out on the stage and give a little talk. And the talk usually went something like this. And they hang their head down, so, because they're afraid. Well, we really appreciate y'all's support. Been working hard this week, and I hope y'all come out and walk. And I was out there as an underclassman and thinking, my turn's coming. My turn's coming. Senior year, first pep rally. I was not the first speaker, but I was the last, although there were people in line behind me. Here's what happened. I walked up there and bowed up my chest, and I said, I am proud to be an Osceola warrior. I frankly don't care if you come to the game or not. We're going to kick their butts. Kickoff is at 7. Tickets for students are $1. And that pep rally ended.
Yeah.
Right there.
Well,
because you should not be conscious of the things around you. You should be conscious of what you're doing.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with being fired up. There's nothing wrong with showing emotion and things like that. But when you make it about you and you pound your chest and things like that, I just think that's childish and idiotic. Even though they're making $23 million a year, it's all about them. I had moments, when I played, and there's nothing wrong with you fired up at all or emotional. That's fine, but just don't make it about you and look up and bring all the accolades.
Celebration was basically not allowed. Okay, when you scored, you handed the ball to the referee, get back to the sideline, act like you've done it before, and
right.
We would celebrate after we win. I was just in a conversation today with an author, Diane Cunningham, and we were talking about this kind of thing. But Bum Phillips, you actually probably
remember,
know. Yeah, Bum Phillips.
Houston,
yeah, back when it was Houston.
The Oilers,
yeah, if he could have beat Pittsburgh, he'd won several Super Bowls, I'm sure. But he was a dynamic individual, and he said this: hard work and good times go hand in hand.
Yeah,
hard work comes first.
Right, exactly. So a lot of folks lose that focus. They want everything. They want all the trophies, things now, and it may not happen. It probably won't happen. We're going to lose more than we win in life. So we have to be prepared to lose. But unfortunately, a lot of kids today don't know that feeling. And the generation now that's growing up has never been told no. And we're seeing what's happening. They've been told no, and they burn down cities. So it comes to that place where the folks who's raising this generation right now have done a terrible job in raising children.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of high-paid, spoiled kids out there at this point. Clint Hurdle, you have you've been involved in sports and sports journalism for so long. You've met so many, including Tim Tebow. But Clint is more than just a professional relationship to you, isn't he?
Yeah. Clint's a friend. I mean, we're not, we don't talk every day, things like that. But I reached out to him a few weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, you got a book coming out. You're in it again. Would you want to do another signing with me down in Florida? When and if the world ever opens up." And he said, "Well, sure. Just let me know. Yeah, would love to." And he said, "Bring your wife down. We'll all go out to dinner." And we have that type of relationship. I mean, he came and did a book signing with me in Pittsburgh, donated 2 hours of his time, and didn't want a dime for it, but it was great. And we do stay in touch. I mean,
if I remember, he had lost the game the night before.
Yeah, Clint. I was a little nervous about that because in the past, sometimes if when you lose, sometimes you're not in a good mood, right? So, I mean, and they just didn't lose; they got blown off the field.
Yeah, they got their butt handed to them.
It was like 11-1, and so I'm like, "Oh boy, what's going to happen?" So when Clint pulls up, and he comes into Barnes and Noble, we're exchanged pleasantries, and I said, "Man, last night was tough. You okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "It's a new day." He says, "That's over. We have a chance to win tonight." And he said, "It's a new day." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I was a little nervous about that because my old days, it's when you lose, you're in a bad mood until you win again. So, but that wasn't the case. He was in a good mood. He was there for a good reason, and he had a great perspective and put me at ease because there was a lot of people lined up to see him.
Well, and that points back to a point I made earlier.
Yeah.
You want to know the measure of a man. Well, when he's down.
Yeah.
It's easy to be a champion when you're winning. It's really not that big a deal. Now, it's also easy to be a jerk, like you pointed out, but that's the challenge. But when you're, I've had to interview coaches after the game, and of course, there's if not a formal agreement, but there's certainly a tradition and an understanding. But I can remember one game that the coach had lost, and he refused to talk to me.
Yeah, that's happened quite a bit, actually. Not to me per se, but I've seen it quite a bit, and
kind of hard to do your job though.
Well, yeah, and then and again, some of these professional athletes, I won't mention names, but back when the Broncos won, when Peyton Manning was quarterback, they won the game, and the quarterback for the other team, very popular. I like him still, but I didn't like him that night because he sat with a towel over his head at the press conference and wouldn't answer questions, and he was almost like a 6-year-old who's been scolded. It was horrible that a person paid that much money cannot carry on a conversation and explain what went wrong. And he pouted and he whined and he cried.
Yeah, the real problem, Del, that breaks my heart is he is an influence on young people. And this is how a champion copes with losing.
Yeah, he sulks, and so I lost a lot of respect for that athlete. And you can do your research and figure out who it is, but I just don't want to say who it is. But it was horribly embarrassing that a grown man who's paid millions of dollars could not carry on a conversation because he had lost a game. Mm-hmm. A game. I
remember Coach Bobby Bowden. What a fine man he is. He had a press conference, and one of those we got our butt handed to us. So, Coach Bowden, of course, had a comment. He says, "Well, we had a drug problem." He said, we got drug up one side of the field and down the other." And
right.
Special needs. Yeah, let me get back to special needs.
Yeah, the point of all that, we all have those, and there's a lot of things to do when you have your own special need, and if you need to seek forgiveness, seek forgiveness. If the best thing to deal with having a special need is unconditional love. If you have somebody with a special need, no matter what it is, if it's a drug problem, if they're an alcoholic, they have another issue, unconditional love will go a long way in that, in helping that person. You should want to cast them to the side. You want them to get help, but you also got to love them, even though when it's hard. I mean, I've never gone through that, so it's easy for me to say that, but I've never experienced that.
Well, it always impresses me. You were talking about Clint Hurdle. You know, he you don't have to pry it out of him. He says, I have an alcohol problem. Well, one of the marks of a champion is facing your problems. Okay. You don't make excuses. You don't run from them. You don't ignore them. And the example I use is if you're on a boat and there's a wave that, you know, all right, you got to point that boat straight at that wave is your best hope. If you try to run from it, it will catch you. If you try to get up sideways, it'll capsize the boat. Go head on into the problem is your best strategy. Can't find a biblical scripture to go with that. Just you'll have to trust me on that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you on that. And if I also pointed out in the blog, I think if you don't think you have a need, you're either perfect or you're a liar. Because everybody has a need, even if it's minor, you have something. I have a lot to work on myself. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means. I have a lot of faux pas, but I know what they are. So and that helps. You know, Clint tells me he is an alcoholic, even though he hasn't had a drink for years. So he had a problem with it. So and he has his daughter now he takes care of. So again, he looks at it. He says God gave her to us to take care of. He said that's how we look at it. She's ours to take care of, not to shun and not to abandon, but to love and take care of. So great perspective. He's featured in one of the chapters in Dugout Devotions 2, which releases March 8th, by the way. And we'll be heading down to North Carolina here in a couple of weeks to do a book signing for that. Actually, an in-person book signing. We're excited about that. We get to be somewhere. I know.
It just dawned on me, I know we're out of time, but you are very involved in the pro-life movement in the state of Ohio. Just wanted to give you a moment to comment on pro-life and where things are at.
Oh, boy. You don't want to open a can of worms there, I know.
Well, I didn't mean to pull the pin. Anything?
Well, I know. I mean, I just know that our current person in the White House who we don't have enough time, who says he's a devout Catholic.
Interesting.
Yet, all of a sudden, faith is important to the other side. For years, we've heard how horrible it is to be a person of faith. But now this devout Catholic is waging war on the unborn. And I just can't fathom. I'm not going to judge, but I can guarantee you the man that does not have faith in God.
Well, it's funny because, I was involved in a crisis pregnancy ministry, and we worked with a lot of Catholic friends, and they are just, strongly pro-life. And here, remember when Amy Barrett, was going through her, like it was, you're Catholic, your faith is very evident, and now they're real worried that somehow that's going to, that she's going to just use her religion to rule from the bench. But here we have a president who is Catholic, or professes, I should say, and Nancy Pelosi the same way. So what I've done, Del, and it gets easier, but I have resolved it. I am going to pray by name. I won't say every day, but at least 3 times a week for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, that they would have a Damascus Road encounter with Christ, because short of that, I have little hope for them.
I concur with that, and so I'll be nice. But in Ohio, things are going well. In fact, we just passed, actually, the Unborn Child Dignity Act was passed, which I wrote a blog on that 2, 3, 4 years ago. It was authored by a really good friend of mine who's now a former state senator. But the Unborn Child Dignity Act was passed finally after about 4 years, and it prohibits now. And this is what was going on in Ohio. It was determined that there were the remains of unborn children that were aborted were being tossed into landfills, and that's not made up. That was facts. It found a lot of them, a lot of remains. So there was actually legislation drawn up saying, whoever does this, you can't do this anymore. You can't throw the bodies in the dumpster anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't to stop abortion; it was to stop this procedure, and that the people who did it, either the physician, they were held financially liable for burying that child.
Oh,
it was that finally passed. After who would oppose that? But the left opposes. It wasn't to stop abortion, right? Which there's other legislation in there. It was to stop the baby from being thrown into a dumpster after it was killed.
Right. I mean,
that's what the legislation.
First of all, it's indignity. That curdles my blood.
That's why it was called the Unborn Child Dignity Act. It was to give that killed baby, and they were murdered, a proper burial.
Well, but human remains, the state regulates what can and cannot and what must be. You don't
Planned
just
Parenthood,
go dumping bodies in holes.
That's what Planned Parenthood of Cincinnati was doing. They were taking the remains, and they were found in a dumpster in a landfill in northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so after an investigation, Governor at the time, Attorney General Mike DeWine said, "You guys stop doing this now." Mm-hmm. And so they stopped doing it. Again, Planned Parenthood. Anybody that supports Planned Parenthood, you need to get saved. Period.
Yes.
You just need Christ in your life, because if you support them, you're supporting the demonic forces. So that legislation finally passed. So now whoever aborts a child, they have to pay for a proper burial. And why it took so long, because it was hitting them in the pocketbooks, and that's what Planned Parenthood loves the most, is money.
Yeah.
And they've waged a war on the emotions of people, saying it's a woman's health. It's her health care. It's not health care.
Like you've got a disease.
It's not health care.
No, it's not. You're not sick. You're not diseased.
And so what did this faith-based Joe Biden do? He is increasing funding for Planned Parenthood.
Sure.
So anybody who's listening, if you voted for Biden, you voted for abortion.
You voted
period.
For evil. You did.
Yes, you did.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to pull the pin on your grenade, but I do concur with what you're saying, and it is very difficult to deal with such a gruesome.
And I'll probably get banned from Facebook now.
Whatever. It's okay. All right. Well, folks, listen. It's always a pleasure.
This is my last time to be on here, probably. I mean, Twitter banned Mike Lindell now, finally. They suspended him.
Yeah, well, you got to do something about that. And
yeah, boy.
Right. Well, Dell, thanks for taking your time and sharing with us tonight.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
I really enjoyed your blog, The Special Needs. Folks, if you haven't read that, go to DellDidway.com. The address was on your screen earlier.
And click on that link at the bottom to pre-order March Dugout Devotions, too.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. That was a cheesy promotion.
You're okay, Dale. We love you. Appreciate you showing up and doing all you do for us. Appreciate you. See you about this time next week.
See you next Tuesday.
Okay, there. Oh, hey, how you doing? There you see the camera over there on the side. I can't leave it there long because my gut's poking out. I look good from here up though, right? Yeah, okay. What great night tonight. I really appreciate those of you, many of you, who have joined us in the pjnet.tv chat room. I think the rain has subsided. I'm going to turn this back up a little bit. Folks, tomorrow night, let me tell you now, let me get my calendar view here and refresh it, because, boy, I tell you, Barbara has been busy, and so have I, arranging a guest to bring us here. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., it's going to be Exercise Your Faith with Dave and James. They're here every month, the fourth Wednesday of every month. And normally on Wednesday, we would have Michelle Medlock Adams, but she has arranged to have in her place Cecil Stokes. Now, Cecil Stokes is the producer, director, whatever, high up, the guy that makes the movies, okay? And he has got a resume as long as your arm. And he's recently, one of his his series on post-abortion counseling made it to the Amazon Prime lineup. So he's going to be here tomorrow night, and we hope that you'll be here with us to hear from him. I'm looking forward to it. And before I leave, I'd like to ask you to ask yourself two questions. They're not that hard, but they will make you think. First, what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And then the second question is, how long ago was that? I hope that none of us will ever be satisfied with our answer to either of those two questions.